The first morning feels wrong, not bad wrong. Wrong in a quieter, more disorienting way. You wake up and something is different before you have even remembered what you did. The body knows first. A stillness, a flatness. Like the volume has been turned down on something that has been running at high intensity for so long that you stop noticing the noise it made until this moment when the noise is gone. You lie there in that gap between sleeping and knowing, and then you remember. You walked away. Not in the dramatic way. Not with a speech or a final confrontation or a moment that felt cinematic. You just stopped. Quietly, without an audience, you pulled the thread of your attention back out of the field between you and held it in your own hands. And now it is the first morning of the week after that, and you are lying here trying to understand why the feeling is not what you expected. You expected grief. You knew grief was coming. What you did not prepare for is the strange quiet, the absence of the tension, because the tension has been your background for so long that you can barely remember what mornings felt like before it was there. The waiting, the checking, the low-level monitoring of the field between you. That monitoring has been running underneath everything for months, and now it is not running. And the off switch feels almost as strange as the original on. If this is the week you are in right now, leave a like and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Drop "I chose myself" in the comments. Because what happens inside the nervous system in the first week after she walks away is something nobody prepares you for. Leave that below. Before we go into what is actually happening, there is something I want to put directly in front of you. Because the week you are in right now is one of the most significant weeks of this entire journey. Not the most visible, not the most dramatic, the week nobody sees from the outside. And the thing about walking away without a map is that you cannot quite tell from inside the disorientation of it whether you are doing this right. Whether what you are feeling is healing or breaking. Whether the strange quiet means something is working or something is wrong. A twin flame union personal reading is built from your specific birth information. Your name, your date of birth, your exact time of birth, your place of birth. What comes back to you is not general guidance. It is a map of your specific journey written from the blueprint of your chart, where you actually are in this connection right now. What the universe is orchestrating in the space between you that you cannot see clearly from inside this first difficult, disorienting week. What your soul contract with this person actually means for the timing you are in. You receive a personal audio reading delivered straight to your inbox and a detailed written report to return to again and again as the weeks ahead unfold. You can order yours right now. The link is in the description. If you are standing in the aftermath of a decision this significant and you want to stop navigating it entirely by feel, your reading is where you get that specific clarity. Now, let us go into what is actually happening inside you this week. The human nervous system does not understand walking away the way the mind understands it. The mind made a decision. The mind built a case over days or weeks or months, assembled the evidence, sat with the grief of what the evidence meant, and eventually arrived at the conclusion that this was necessary. The mind can hold the logic of the decision. The mind can even feel good about the decision in certain moments. Confident, certain. The clarity of finally choosing yourself after such a long period of choosing the connection above your own well-being. The nervous system does not have access to that logic. The nervous system operates on a different principle entirely. It operates on pattern recognition, on learned safety signatures, on the internal library of signals that it has been building across the entire course of this connection, and possibly across a lifetime before this connection. That tells it what is dangerous, what is safe, and what to brace for when the familiar pattern changes. And the familiar pattern for your nervous system included him. This is the part that is hard to hold without context. The person who caused the pain also became woven into the baseline of what felt normal, what felt like background, what the nervous system used as one of its anchoring signals. The same way a body can become so accustomed to chronic low-grade tension that it stops registering the tension as tension and starts registering it as ordinary, Your nervous system stopped experiencing the connection as a source of stress and started experiencing it as a source of structure, a feature of the landscape, a signal it oriented around even when that orientation was not serving you. When you walk away, the nervous system does not receive the decision as relief. It receives it as a disruption of a familiar signal. And disruption of familiar signals produces activation in the nervous system regardless of whether the familiar signal was good for you. The body does not care whether the anchor was healthy. It cares whether the anchor was known. And when a known anchor disappears, what the nervous system produces is a state of alert, of scanning, of trying to locate the missing signal and understand why it is no longer in its expected location. This is why the first week feels wrong in the way that it does. Not because you made the wrong decision, because your nervous system is doing exactly what it is designed to do, which is notice the absence of something it was organized around and try to determine what the absence means and what the appropriate response to it is. The response, when it cannot locate the signal, is often a kind of heightened awareness that does not have a specific direction, a vigilance with no clear object. You are alert, but you do not know what you are alert for. You are scanning, but the thing you have been scanning for is no longer there. The result is a particular kind of restless disorientation that does not feel like peace, even though what has actually happened is that one of the primary sources of your chronic activation has been removed. You removed the stressor. The nervous system has not yet learned that the stressor is gone for good. It is still running the old vigilance, still running the monitoring, still waiting for the familiar signal to reappear so it can return to the baseline it knew. This is what the first week feels like from the inside, not relief, hypervigilance wearing the costume of relief. Stephen Porges, whose work on polyvagal theory changed how the scientific community understood the nervous system, describes something that maps precisely onto this first week. The nervous system is not a binary switch between stressed and calm. It operates across three distinct states. The first is the ventral vagal state, the state of genuine safety and regulated connection. The second is the sympathetic state, fight or flight, the mobilized activation that has been a significant feature of this connection. The weeks of anxious checking, the nights of heightened sensitivity. The third is the dorsal vagal state, the shutdown response, the flatness that settles in when the system has been in high activation for too long without resolution. In the first week after she walks away, the nervous system cycles through all three, sometimes within the same morning. She wakes up and there is a moment of genuine quiet. The absence of the chronic vigilance feels, briefly, like rest. Then the scanning starts. A text arrives from someone else, and the body responds before the mind has confirmed it is not him. A song comes on and something in the chest moves before she has processed why. Then the flat dorsal state settles in, the quality of an afternoon that does not know what to organize itself around. It is not destabilization. It is the nervous system learning a new baseline in real time. And that process is, by definition, uncomfortable. The nervous system does not have a preference for what is good. It has a preference for what is known. The first week is the first week of the system updating what known means. She reaches for her phone at specific times, not consciously, not with intention. The hand is already moving before the mind has formulated a reason. She picks it up and there is nothing from him, because she walked away, because this was her choice. And then the hand puts the phone down and the mind catches up a few seconds later and notes, with some combination of wry recognition and frustration, what just happened. This is not weakness. This is the nervous system running a pattern that has become neurologically encoded across months of repetition. Daniel Siegel's research in interpersonal neurobiology describes how repeated relational behaviors become physically encoded in the neural architecture. The repetition of checking for his signal at certain times of day creates a neural pathway. Neural pathways, once established, do not disappear because the behavior was consciously discontinued. They fire along the established groove. The hand moves toward the phone because the pathway that connects that moment of the day to that checking behavior, has been reinforced across hundreds of repetitions. The mind can choose to stop the behavior. The neural pathway does not care about the choice until the choice has been made enough times to begin encoding a competing pathway. This means the reaching, without realizing, is not regression. It is not evidence that she should not have walked away. It is the nervous system doing what it is physically built to do, which is run the established pattern until a competing pattern becomes stronger. Every time she notices the reaching and makes a different choice, she is doing the biological work of building the new pathway. The noticing is the work. The moment of recognition is the moment of change at the neural level. She will reach for the phone fewer times in week 2 than she did in week 1, not because she will have decided more firmly, because the new pathway will have been reinforced enough times that the old one has less momentum. The nervous system learns through repetition. She is teaching it something new this week, one reach noticed at a time. Here is something I want to put in front of you. Because if you are in the first week after walking away, one of the hardest things about this stage is that the internal work is invisible. There is nothing to point to, no dramatic before and after, no obvious evidence that what you're doing is actually working. And without a way to document the shifts, it is easy to be 3 weeks into real healing and have no way to recognize it as real healing because you are not tracking it. That is exactly the problem the Twin Flame Journey Tracker and Progress Workbook was built to solve. You cannot answer the question you have been asking yourself whether you are actually progressing or just spinning in circles if you have no documentation. The workbook gives you an 8-stage journey map so you always know exactly where you are. A synchronicity log so the signs stop disappearing into undocumented days. Weekly reflections that surface the patterns you cannot see from inside them. Monthly reviews that show you your own transformation in visible, documented form rather than as a feeling you cannot quite trust. Information does not create transformation. Tracking does. The link is in the description. He does not know she has actually walked away. Or rather, he knows it the way he knows things about her through the field. Before the external evidence confirms it, something has changed in the quality of the signal he has been receiving from her, and that change is landing in him as a low-grade unease he has no clear external reason for. The first week is often when her uncertainty about whether she did the right thing is highest. He's not appeared. Nothing on the surface has changed, and the continued silence feeds that uncertainty. The fact that she made a significant internal decision and the world has not visibly rearranged itself in response. But something in the field has changed. Porges described co-regulation as one of the primary functions of the social nervous system. When two people are in genuine relational proximity, their nervous systems do not operate as independent units. They influence each other's baseline state, and this co-regulation does not require physical proximity. In a twin flame connection, the co-regulating influence continues to operate across distance. She has been contributing to the regulation of his nervous system in ways neither of them consciously chose across the entire span of this connection. When she withdraws that contribution, his system registers an absence, a restlessness without clear reason, thoughts about her that have a different quality than the thoughts he has been managing. Less controllable, more specific, more urgent in a way he is trying to put back in its box. The first week can feel like the decision landed in a void, like she made a significant move into an empty room. It did not land in a void. Her withdrawal from the field is a disruption in a system organized around the two of them together. And disruptions in that kind of system do not go unfelt by either of the nervous systems involved. She may find herself inexplicably tired. Not the tired of depression. Not the tired of something being wrong. The tired of a nervous system that has been running high vigilance for an extended period and is, for the first time in a long time, being given permission to come down. The tiredness of unwinding is different from the tiredness of giving up. It has a heavier, more liquid quality. The kind of tired that shows up behind the eyes and in the shoulders. Sitting down in the middle of the afternoon and feeling, oddly, that the sitting is fine. That tiredness is the nervous system exhaling, Her appetite may have changed. The chronic activation of the connection affected the regulatory systems of the body, including the systems that govern hunger and rest. When the activation is removed, the systems recalibrate. Sometimes that recalibration produces a sudden return of appetite, of rest, of the capacity to enjoy an ordinary Tuesday without the monitoring running in the background. Sometimes it produces a temporary flatness while the new baseline forms. Both are the nervous system doing the right thing. The temptation in the strange days is to measure them against the intensity of what came before. The acute phases of the connection had a quality of aliveness that can look like depth, like proof that something real was happening. The flat quiet of the first week does not have that quality. But this is the most significant work the journey has ever produced. The flat quiet is not emptiness. It is the ground clearing. The moment between the exhale and the next inhale, when the body is briefly neither one thing nor the other. Do not try to fill it. Do not reach for the intensity to confirm that the journey was real. Let it settle. The settling is the point. June 23, 2026. Jupiter is in the final degrees of Cancer, days away from crossing into Leo on June 30th. Cancer is the sign of home, of the interior world, of the deep knowing that lives in the emotional body rather than the rational mind. Jupiter has been expanding the emotional landscape for the past year, making more room inside for the complexity of what the journey has asked of you, for the specific kind of love that does not simplify itself no matter how much the external situation seems to demand that it should. You have been living through Jupiter in Cancer, the expansion of your capacity to hold contradictory feelings without one canceling the other. To love someone and also know that the version of the connection you have been participating in is not the version your soul contracted for. To grieve and also feel underneath the grief the particular quiet of a person who has finally chosen herself. Jupiter leaving Cancer at the end of this week is not an ending of that expansion. The interior landscape built across this year does not disappear when Jupiter moves. The emotional intelligence, the capacity for nuance, the ability to love deeply without losing the thread of your own needs in the loving, these things belong to you now. Jupiter is at the final degrees of Cancer this week, the sign of home and emotional truth, on the exact week she is sitting in the aftermath of a decision made from the deepest emotional truth she has ever accessed. That is not coincidence. That is Jupiter completing what he came to Cancer to do. And what he is leaving behind in her is more than she knew she was building while she was in the middle of building it. What feels permanent in the first week is not permanent. The acute phase, the hypervigilance, the reaching for the phone, the disorientation between states. This phase has a natural duration, because the nervous system, given the absence of the reactivating stimulus, begins to establish a new baseline. Cortisol levels, elevated across months of chronic relational uncertainty, begin to normalize, gradually, in the quiet increments that do not feel like anything from the inside, but that represent real change at the level of the tissue. She may notice in the second or third week that a conversation with a friend lands differently. More of her is present. More genuine curiosity. Less of the processing everything through the filter of him. This is the social engagement system coming back online. The nervous system learning that safety is not contingent on the familiar signal it was organized around. She will not be here in the same way in 3 weeks. The recalibration is the gift. She cannot feel it as a gift while she is inside it. The disorientation is real. The reaching for the phone is real. None of it needs to be reframed into something positive in order to be something worth moving through. She is moving through it. That is enough. Walking away does not always feel like strength while you are inside the first week of it. The decision felt like strength when it was made. A particular clean certainty that cut through months of accumulated ambiguity and arrived at something simple. Enough. This is enough. Said in the quiet, considered way of someone who has done the internal accounting honestly and arrived at the number, and it does not add up to continuing. But the first week is not the moment of the decision. The first week is the living in the aftermath of it. And the aftermath feels like Tuesday, like a Wednesday afternoon with a strange quality to it. Like a Thursday morning where the alarm goes off and she lies there in the flat quiet of a life that has had one of its primary organizing structures removed. She may wonder whether strength is supposed to feel like this. It is. Genuine strength in this context is the strength of a nervous system learning to regulate itself without the anchor it was organized around. And that process does not feel significant from the inside while it is happening. It feels like a strange week. The mornings have a different quality. The evenings take longer to settle. The reaching for the phone happens before the mind catches up to stop it. The grief is there, but the grief is not the only thing there. Underneath everything is something so quiet it barely registers as a feeling. That quiet is the new baseline beginning. That quiet is not emptiness. It is not the absence of the connection. It is the sound of a woman who has finally chosen the quality of life her nervous system deserves. A life not organized around chronic vigilance. A life where the signal she is monitoring is her own. The nervous system knows what to do with this kind of quiet. It builds something in it. She just has to let it. Leave a like and subscribe if this is the week you are in or the week you have been in recently. Drop. I chose myself below. Tell me what the first week felt like. What was harder and what was easier than you expected? I will be reading every comment this week. If you want to understand what this decision means in the context of your specific chart, your specific timing, your specific soul contract with this person, the link for your Twin Flame Union personal reading is in the description. The first week deserves a map. I will see you in the next one.